Welcome to Black People Love Paramore, a podcast where I explore the common and uncommon interests of Black people in order to help us feel seen. Please feel free to rate us and write us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. 5 stars only because we are 5-star bitches or Dio Gotti. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like, comment, subscribe, and all of the things. I'm your host, Sequoia, and today joining me to chat about, I don't even know what to call what we're chatting about. Kink, sex in general?
Yeah. All of the above.
Okay, we have writer, actor, comedian Thot Dad, co-host of the Maximum Film podcast, and host of Actually on Dropout, Ify Nwadiwe.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining. I'm very excited to have you. I've wanted to have you on this podcast for a long time, so I'm happy that we are finally here.
Yeah, we did it. We've known each other a long time, so now we've connected via the pod world.
We're actually on the same network, y'all. Like, me and Ify worked together at BuzzFeed, and then now we're both on the same podcast network. And he's also always fighting for democracy with my boyfriend in the room.
Yeah,
playing Helldiver. So
yeah, always.
There's that. Just so connected all the time.
But we did it, and now we're back.
And I'm very excited. Okay, we're talking about kink.
Yes.
The dictionary definition of kink is a sharp twist or curve in something that is otherwise straight. I feel like that also works for the sexual definition, but the sexual definition that I have here is from New York City-based psychotherapist and sex therapist and BDSM expert. This is a difficult name, y'all. Please work with me. Or at least I have difficulty pronouncing it, should I say. Not that her name is difficult. Dulcinea Pitagora. Okay. And she says kink can be generally defined as any eroticized interaction that falls outside of the statistical norm of heteronormative sex. That all sounds like the same thing to me.
Yeah. I mean, it's so funny because it kind of is when you think about it. Like, it all rotates around that same world where it's like, okay, is it one thing? Is it that? Is it like feet? Is it BDSM? And I do think, it is like an element of for me, I always just kind of shorthand use kink for like BDSM, sex parties, things like that.
Okay. So you have some experience with the world. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Wait, I want to hear about the experience. What you be doing, Ify? I don't know this side of you. I only know you. A nice gym man. I seen you in the gym one time. I'm Ify be a nice man. Now you be online on some shit. I don't know what's going on. Tell me what you be doing.
It is just like another like form of exploration and freedom, and kind of going against these social norms. And I think at its core, and what it truly is just another way to have fun with sex. I think that's what it all really comes down to. It's less like about anything other than just like having fun, stepping out and just really exploring that space and yourself and seeing where it takes you.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are probably more limited in the sexual realm than they realize because of the hesitation around stepping out.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, something. So I have another podcast that me and Emily, my partner, have called Our Relationship Pod, and it really does come from one of the kind of my main talking points comes from like in the ERG conversations that we would have at BuzzFeed, where we would talk about the emotional cheating. I don't know if you remember that day. I don't know if you remember that thread.
Wait, I kind of do.
Yeah, yes. We were all talking about emotional cheating in there, and it was all about like the big thing was like, and you remember some people were like, look, as long as you're not having sex, that's not emotional cheating. You know, as long as it's
Yeah.
just, and everyone was like, what do you mean? And like, no one was wrong in that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Really, it is just
Mm-hmm.
the boundaries that I think people have. But the problem is no one ever has those conversations. I think everyone tries to rinse, repeat, and have like pretty much explore the way that we assume everyone does, because we're
Yeah.
like, oh hey, this is what monogamy is, and this is what sex and monogamy is, and sometimes we'll do anal for your birthday, you know. like
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
for and that's what's so funny about it is, no, I feel like no one explores outside of that. Either you have people who are having sex to procreate, or you're having people who are just going buck wild.
Right, right, right. No, that's super fair. That's a really good point. A lot of confusion can be mitigated with a simple conversation kind of outlining expectations, and that can be in a sexual sense or in a non-sexual sense, like
Yeah.
with the emotional cheating conversation. That was a very interesting conversation too. I feel like I learned
Yeah.
a lot about my coworkers that day. That was at BuzzFeed, y'all. And I was like, okay, this is a very interesting conversation, but neither here nor there. Okay, I have a question for you. A
Oh yeah, go
fetish
for it.
versus a kink. Do you think there's a difference?
Yeah, I actually had a conversation on a show with a sex therapist, and there is a difference between a fetish and a kink, where a fetish, I think, is specifically um, sexualizing the item, and kink is more so just like usually used about the lifestyle itself.
Okay. Okay.
And so like feet guys, that's a foot fetish, or like people who like cake sitting and stuff, like that's more of a fetish. And kink is specifically like either like the community aspect of it. I'm like paraphrasing, but that is generally how it was described to me.
That definitely makes sense. I That makes a lot of sense. The definition that I pulled online is similar. It
Mm,
says while kink increases the partner's pleasure, fetishism replaces the partner with an object
yeah.
or objectifies the partner. And as someone who I guess had never really thought too deeply about the difference between a fetish and a kink and kind of use them interchangeably, that really put it into perspective. I want to make sure that I'm, saying what I mean and meaning what I say. So
Yeah.
just trying to be mindful of that. That means a lot. Now, some of us have war stories and some of us have horror stories.
hmm
Do you have a horror story? Some hoe shit that you were
oh
on
yeah. I
that you
mean,
would like to talk about?
tons of it. You know, I definitely,
Not tons of
I,
it,
oh
please.
yeah, I often talk about my like European slut tour. I was like going through a breakup, and it was like this trip that I was like going on. Um, you know, it was originally going to be a trip with me and my ex partner, and then we broke up, so that just didn't happen.
Yeah.
And so it evolved into a trip where now I just kind of was just like, I think I went to London first, and it was kind of whatever. And then like went to Italy, met someone there, and then like we like made out, and it was like cool. Then I bumped into like a friend in Germany and got romantic. And yeah, it was just like a whole like bouncing around Europe, and uh just being like single and free. And so that was definitely my like first element of it. And then I think the next stage of it, more into, I think I got really open and more into myself recently, but like, because I am polyamorous, and currently in an ethically non-monogamous relationship. But before that, I was trying to do my best like solo polyamorous experience, which means like I'm just meeting a bunch of different people and dating a bunch of folks, and like that was very interesting. But it really wasn't until like not to put her on blast, even though she wouldn't feel like it's putting her on blast. My partner, I think, is more well versed in the kink space, and she was the one who's like, okay, this is how it goes down, because I've always been interested. But the number one thing to know about like kink and sex parties is, you, as of like man, you just can't show up by yourself. Like if you are a woman, you can show up by yourself, but like as a man, and for good reason, we've done enough. You can't trust a single man in these spaces.
Fair.
So it was something that I never even questioned. I feel like some people would be mad about it. Like I remember I had a friend who who was like salty because he was trying to like go to, like, he went to a kink meetup, and it was like a black queer kink meetup. And I feel like he is like, he was probably would be more hetero flexible, but honestly, I get a lot of bi energy, which is why I think he went under the radar first. And then I think he was told like, hey, you're not like queer enough. And he was like so tight about it. And I was like, well, they're creating a space for themselves,
Oh, yeah.
like, but he was like, there's more white people there and it's supposed to be BIPOC. And I'm like, yeah, I feel you on that front, but like, I feel like they just carving a space out. And I feel like, so for me to try and explore it, I just kind of always needed a partner who was either into that or who was going to take that journey with me. So, M was like, oh, I'm deep in it. I'm like, in this life, this is how it works. These are the rules. This is what you need to know. This is how you need to dress. These are the good ones. These are the bad ones. And I was just like, it truly was like being Neo in the Matrix when he sat in the karate chair and you like, oh, I learned everything.
Yeah.
And then like, I feel like now I'm just, living it. It went from like being like curious. And I feel like at first you kind of like, I think anything, we've talked about this before, me and him, but like, just, I talk about this with friends a lot, like learning things as an adult, trying new things as an adult is so vulnerable, because as a kid, you don't have the ego. You're just like, I'm gonna just try stuff. And if it's for me, it's not. If it isn't, it isn't. But I feel like as an adult, you're like, what if I'm bad at this? What if I look silly? What if I'm doing it wrong? What if everyone doesn't, you're not only trying something new, but you're also entering a like community. And I remember, because I've done impact play, which for the ones not to know, that's just like spanking and flogging, anything where you're like, hitting or spanking your partner. That's just impact play. Like that's the umbrella term. And I've obviously done it in the bedroom. I'm sure most people do it in the bedroom. I think what's funny about us talking about this is how mainstream kink is becoming, because I've been reading kink books, and I'm reading a book by a dominatrix. It's like a collection of her essays, but it was written like in the early aughts. And the way that she talks about kink in the book, it's very interesting to see how far we've come, because she's very much like, oh, this is so salacious, and you're gonna be like, kind of like, feel like you're alone in this. And I was like, oh no, I feel like, Drake's calling people good girls in his songs. You got, Whips and Chains Excite Me by Rihanna. Like, I think kink is very much on the forefront. And it's not, I think we as a generation have been open and welcome to sexual exploration. I mean, the blogs are always going to talk about how crazy, every time there's a podcast with some dudes on a couch. Anytime, you see some dudes on a couch with a mic on Twitter or TikTok, it's about to be some foolishness. But it's always some like, oh, you gonna let somebody put a finger in your butt? Like does that make you gay? And it's like, I don't know, man. I feel like everyone is finding all the ways to that all the things that make you gay, except sleeping with the same sex. Like
very much that.
It is interesting to see like but even that being a conversation and not being shunned. And I think one video I saw, it was one guy being like, yeah, I like it. And what? And that's,
Period.
and that's the kryptonite for a lot of those dudes on couches. A man confident in his
Yeah.
choices who can't be swayed by their
Yeah.
homophobia. They don't know
Yeah.
what to do. Cause then
Mhm.
then you have to explain yourself. Well, why is it weird? Why do you think that?
Right.
Uh, it's beautiful. I think as a freak, it's beautiful to see people coming into it. But I think, you know, big picture, I think as a Western society, it can be hyper puritanical because we
Mhm.
are as much as we look at like other countries that are like more, ruled by religion, we tend to think that we're not, but we are very much. It's just more covert, and I think it
Yeah.
is more ingrained, and that is not necessarily a pro or con, but I think it is. There's influences, and I think it is the way we look at sex. I do think the thing that people Europeans always laugh at us for, which is the fact that you can see someone's like brains get blown out on TV or hyper violence, and that's totally fine, and we're not moved by it. But if we're still having a conversation about whether or not mothers should breastfeed in the public,
Ooh,
and it's like that is
yes.
a baby being fed and you're sexualizing it, and she can't
Yes.
feed her baby because of
Yes.
you.
Because of you. Yes. Wow, that's nuts. Okay, you bring up a really good point. First of all, you're so insightful about this, Ify. I actually have never spoken to you about this, so when you brought it up, I
Yeah.
wasn't sure like where the conversation was gonna go. But you're so fucking insightful. This is incredible. This is
Oh,
great.
thank you.
Yeah. Okay. There is a lot of discourse lately, I feel like online with Gen Z mostly about sex scenes in movies or just like
Oh,
on screen
yes.
sex scenes in general. And it seems to be a lot of pushback that I guess I wasn't expecting. Do you have thoughts?
Yeah, I feel like it's just the pendulum swinging the other way. I think
Mm-hmm.
that, across generations, there is a like hypersexualization. I mean, if we think about those old like Carl's Jr. commercials and all of that, so and our like general comfort with sex and how we talk about sex, and I think that it has caused this next generation to think that not talking about sex makes you somehow smarter or more intelligent, and that it's unnecessary and need. And it like our podcast, me and M's podcast, is us reading people asking for relationship advice on Reddit. And like 9 out of 10 relationship questions are rooted in the inability to talk freely about like what your sexual desires are. And it's because we uh the more like our generation, which is supposedly more sexually at like outgoing and
Mm-hmm.
talking, still can't talk about our desires because it's always rooted in shame. And I've had partners where I've talked to them, and they talk about one of their earliest like sexual memories, and how like they might have learned to masturbate too early, and they were doing it in class, and
Mm-hmm.
then their parents and the principals like, what are you doing? This is wrong, this is good. And it was something offhandedly kind of like mentioned, and then you kind of see how it uh kind of shows itself in how they view sex in general, because
Yeah.
there's that shame
Yeah.
attached to it, because one of your first experiences was met with shame. And I feel like the reason I've just tend to intellectualize sex and just be so interested in it is because my stepmom used to she was like I don't know the exact job title, but she worked with the projects in Compton while we lived out there, like Nickerson Gardens.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was the one out there kind of like being that next level of sex ed, because we don't have that in America.
Mm-hmm.
And she was the one being like, instead of trying to preach abstinence, which doesn't work and causes people to be more curious, being the one like, hey, this, you need to use condoms and sexual health. And so she was always very open about having conversations about sex, because her whole philosophy was like, I'd rather you know what you're doing and do it safely than be bringing babies home or
Mm-hmm.
you catching something. So we're going to
Word.
have these conversations and we're not going to be afraid about talking about it. And so, I think at first it manifested in me being just a little too excited and being, weird, I feel like, in high school, but it also just made me approach it, um, very openly from the jump. Like, I remember very early on there was like a 2020 uh episode that was talking about like ethical porn and like talking about like
Mm.
the differences in like the porn industry and ethical porn, and from that I was just interested, and I think it's just the way my nerd brain works,
Mm-hmm.
where I'm like, oh, I want to know how it's made, I want to know
Mm-hmm.
how it's done. So when I was watching porn I was already like, oh, what is this really like, what's going on behind the scenes. And I think having that approach to it and like attaching, the inner workings of it changed my whole perspective on the idea of sex and being focused on, femme pleasure and being focused on like everyone having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that the way that most people not only have sex but like approach romantic relationships is just like replaying the blueprint that they had in their head that
Definitely.
works best. I
Definitely.
think it happens with the way that men date, men and women date. It happens in the way that we, court each other. We have,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many times, um, have you been in relationships where someone seems confused that their communication style isn't working, and
Mm-hmm.
they're like, and they make it seem like it's because you're crazy and not because they're just reiterating a communication style that worked with a different partner.
Yeah.
And how many times have you kind of had to lay there while someone's running the playbook for somebody else's body on you, and you're like, okay, some of these are working and some of these
Mm-hmm.
aren't. And
Mm-hmm.
instead of like talking to you and getting like in finding out what you like, they're just like, oh no, this works and this is why I'm good at it. It's
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
uh it's just I think it all comes down to, like, we're talking about sex, we're talking about relationships, but it all comes down to people and in general. I
Mm-hmm.
think that we it's very easy to try and like generalize and use what we think can work for everyone than to do the work in realizing that every person is different, which is why like it's very easy to be like, oh, this person does this and I don't mess with people who do that because that's that. Or leaning on astrology, I don't mess with Pisces because I did the Pisces, because that's easy. It's easy to be like, I'm not going to have my heart broken if I avoid Pisces, instead of being like, I'm
That's
going
real.
to have to step to this person as a blank slate, take them as they come, see what works, see what doesn't, because that's scary. And also I
Yeah.
feel like we feel like it might be a waste of time, and it is. In the pursuit of love, you're
Not
gonna have to
and it
waste a lot of
is.
time if you want to do it right,
Yeah. No, word. Okay, if you are you a Pisces? That's what I want to know.
I am. I am
And
a
yes,
Pisces.
indeed,
Yes, I
he
am.
is a
Yes.
Pisces.
Yeah.
Okay, are you? I feel like it's giving sex therapist vibes. Like you feel very knowledgeable about this, and like you could really actually help a lot of other people. Is that something that you thought about considering?
If it doesn't work out in the comedy and TV writing, I wouldn't mind being a sex therapist, because I think everyone
Yeah.
needs it. I think people avoid it. I think it's just we're just so like, we will look to so many different things and not sex.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you need that connection. Like, how many times have you been like snippy with your partner, and you've been going, this used to happen a lot in my like early 20s, where you're just like you just annoyed with each other, you're going back and forth, and then you have sex and everything's better. it was like and it was like, oh yeah, because you didn't have that physical touch. It's not even the sex itself, it's that
It's
intimacy.
physical
and
touch.
and
Yeah.
then I think as we get older, we find new ways to be intimate even outside of the bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is slept on. I think
Mm-hmm.
that once again we look for the, oh, we have a dinner together, and it's like, no, sometimes it's just like having, time together on the couch, that the phones are aside, it's just you and your partner, and that is intentional time together, and that gives you that same connection more than like going to a date, more than that. And especially on the TikToks, we that's where we're doing all of our research, right?
Yeah.
And you talk, you see all these like guys who's like, oh my god, like why does she want to just be here? And it's like, oh, because she just wants to share that space with you. She
Yeah.
doesn't need to have the conversation, but it's all these hangups. But then
Yeah.
I think it's the other flip where it's like some people need time alone. They need that space and then to return.
Yeah.
But because they don't know how to air that out, they either act out or lash out in a weird way, or they just disappear or
Get
ghost and don't
distant as
answer.
hell. Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of just being like, hey, I just need a little time to myself. I'm gonna get back to you in XYZ. And that'll probably work way better than just ghosting somebody out of nowhere and then
Yeah.
popping back up like nothing
Probably.
happened.
Yeah. That'll probably do it if we're thinking about ways to make it better. Okay. If you
Oh
have a
yeah.
game for you,
Okay.
we're gonna play erotic or not.
Okay.
I'm gonna list some circumstances, some scenarios, and you
Okay.
tell me if they are erotic or not to you. Okay.
Okay.
Chopping trees on TikTok.
You know, I get it. They're not for me, but I get it. Like, I think that, I think a lot to the meme where it's like we used to fight wars, like I
Yeah.
feel like
That is it. That is it.
seeing men be masculine in a like performative physical way is a niche that I think a lot of people need. They like to see, and I think people are afraid to say like it's so funny to watch people be like, I don't know why these women going crazy over the wood chopping dude, because that man is doing labor
Yeah.
outside, also just washboard abs
Yeah.
and talking through. I think the thing that makes those TikToks hit more than the chopping wood, more than the washboard abs,
Yeah.
is watching a man communicate and
Ooh.
clearly and
Ooh.
directly and
Ooh.
set a plan and
Yep.
follow through with it.
Period. Okay, hold on. You really onto something. And when you said performing masculinity, that really dings something in my head, because I feel like we often watch women perform femininity in the way that men like.
Yeah.
Even though there's no real way to perform femininity or perform masculinity,
Oh
but we
yeah.
see that women do it in the way that men like. And I don't think we as often, at least not from my perspective, do we see men do it in the way that women like.
No, because we're losing the recipes
We're losing
because
recipes.
we're not listening to the right people. I think every discussion on masculinity and what it should look like and what it should be are coming from men. And why are we listening to them?
That
I'm not
part.
trying to date Andrew Tate. So why do I care what he thinks
That
men should do?
part. Right. Yes.
And we are so kind of wrapped up in the idea of trying to be like those men who are oftentimes performing and presenting a life they don't actually live,
We know that.
and then trying to walk in their footsteps instead of just listening to women on TikTok. Women on TikTok are telling you exactly the masculine acts they want to see performed, and
Yeah.
you'd rather listen to some bald dude who has straight up like crimes, a laundry list of crimes,
Literal
than
crimes.
to like listen to the very women that you're trying to like date. And
Very
I've
much
known that's
that.
true ever since. I remember, I'll never forget I had a tweet where I was like, guys will get so far when they realize that all you need to do is to talk to women like human beings and you'll get so far. And I had all of my homegirls, all of my homegirls who like do Twitch streams and e-girls and OnlyFans, like just hot women just in my replies agreeing, and like men being like, that ain't true. It's like, but
I saw
they're
that. I
right
think I saw
here.
that.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
right here. They're saying it's true, and you're telling me I'm lying because you don't, because you're weird. Like that's
I
the
swear to
thing,
God. I swear to
I think it
God.
goes back to the ashy fucked up hairline guys who were like, black women didn't like me because I was nerdy. It was like, no, they didn't like you because you was like watching hentai in class in iShot, and then
That.
was like shouting, Japanese phrases at them, and was running at them with your hands behind your back.
Right.
And even then, you probably had somebody who was trying to do that with you, and you was
I
ignoring them.
swear to God. I was thinking about this the other day. This is kind of a tangent, but I was thinking about this the other day. I personally feel like you could put like one black man in a room full of black women and somebody's going to like him for sure.
Oh
And
yeah,
that's not always necessarily true in the reverse. If you put one black woman in a room full of black men, I don't necessarily feel like that's always true.
yeah.
I could be wrong on that. That was an inclination that I had in my head, but I was it takes me back to the black girls didn't like me. I'm like, it literally cannot be true. I do
I
not believe you.
I think that it it really is just a lot of people holding on to that one good roast that clipped them,
The
and
Clifton
just like,
Dad. Yeah.
and they attributed to all, like straight up turn them into the Avatar,
Yeah.
and every black woman is that.
A fact.
You know.
That's a fact. Okay, I have another prompt for you. This one
Mm-hmm.
might resonate with you a little bit more because
Yeah.
I've seen you do it. Crush fruit with your bare hands or thighs or other body parts on TikTok.
Yeah, I've done that. I've crushed watermelon with my thighs. I did the hand thing. And yeah, once again, performing masculinity in
Mhm.
a performative way. You know, yeah, like I'm listening. I'm listening to what the TikTok girlies are saying they want.
If he's
They
taking
want
notes.
strong man, busting fruit, chopping wood.
And you
So
said I
you
can give
gonna
him
do
that.
it.
You said I
Yeah,
got
I'll
you. I
give you
got you on
that.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll never forget when the there was that meme that was going, or like meme, there was like men who were hopping on Instagram and doing videos where they were saying, "Oh, I remember y'all was in the hoochie daddy shorts. What was up with that?" It's like, yeah, because women were asking for them.
What are you confused about? Right.
Like
What?
if you
If
ain't
you
got
got it,
quads,
you know what
just
I
say that.
mean? If you don't
If
have
you
quads,
if you
just say
can't bust out
that.
squats, just say
If you
that.
don't like your
But
quads, just say that.
don't make it seem like that's something that we did of our own volition and it
Don't
wasn't
come.
requested.
You know what I mean?
You
Don't come for
know?
me and my 6-inch inseam.
Yeah,
Okay.
we didn't call them hoochie daddy shorts.
You
That's
did.
what
Right.
women called.
That was us. That was us.
And
Yes.
we said, we hear you. Yes,
And
chef.
we can hooch it up. Yes, chef. We can hooch it
Yeah.
up. Another prompt. Is it erotic or not? WWE.
Definitely.
Erotic as
Definitely.
hell.
And we're seeing it. I don't know if you've been seeing all the Rhea Ripley clips. Rhea Ripley is the tall, thick, goth female wrestler who's just been doing like all these pins, and all these wrestling dudes have been like thirsting over her and putting all the angles and posting it online and like, oh yeah. But I was like, okay, if you're doing that, you can't be mad at all the women who's like, yo, some of these wrestling dudes, they're erotic. And you're like, no, it's tough. It's like, nah, because she's doing the exact same thing, but it's just two women.
Word.
But it's normally two fellas.
Word. When I was young, when I was like a child, entering puberty, and wrestling would come on, WWE would come on, I really felt like I was watching porn. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, this is so sexual. This is nuts.
Oh yeah. The oiled up, buff, shiny men tossing each other around.
Yeah.
Come on, now we know why there was running to the bathhouses.
You know what I mean? Like a butt would hit their face or something.
Yeah.
Like I was like, this
the
is so...
Rikishi butt move. Because that's the one thing Rhea Ripley did that everyone was going crazy. She did that on Rikishi's, like, I think it's niece or daughter. It just as a mocking thing, but everyone was like, yo, this is so hot. I'm like, then what was it when Rikishi was putting that thing on the wrestler's face?
Also spicy. It was also spicy.
Yes.
Okay. Playing Twister.
Oh yeah, that's the classic.
Erotic. Classic erotic.
That was the classic. Like, you knew you was it was always a party where the parents weren't supervising and all the teens were getting together and they were like, okay, we're gonna play Twister, and you like, okay,
Yeah.
okay, we're gonna play some Twister.
Yeah. I like to
Sign
do
me
that.
up.
Right.
Yeah.
Morning voice.
Oh yeah.
Morning voice.
Morning voice. Yeah. Morning voice. Yeah. And I feel like with the right person, morning breath. You know, he's like that's that
Ify,
real love.
I'm about to hang up on you. You actually just upset me.
That's that real love. When they turn over to you and you like, I'm not gonna turn away. I'm gonna take this to the chest because I need this kiss. That's romance.
Ify in here talking about morning breath. And I
so are y'all telling me that y'all sit up there and y'all go brush y'all teeth before giving each other little morning kisses?
Ify,
Garrick running late. He gotta go hit the plane so he can go to his show. You're not gonna give him his morning kiss?
No, but I'm not. I am, but I'm not gonna breathe on him. I'm not gonna breathe on him. It's gonna be a closed mouth.
Closed mouth.
You know what I mean?
It's still there. It's still there. It's still a risk.
I'm not about to take my whole tongue out. Oh my god!
Yeah, it's still a risk.
You just upset me. We're moving on. We're gonna move on. Riding a horse.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
Okay. Tying someone's tie.
Ooh. I feel like yes. But it's like a different kind of erotic. It's like when someone is tying your tie, because there's that closeness and there's that like second where you're kind of being choked by them, you know?
It is a little choke moment.
Yeah, well, it's the main reason why if someone's tying your tie for you, there's like, take it off. I'm gonna tie this for you. I'm not trying to be inches from your face.
Absolutely.
Like anytime I'm getting lobbed for work, it's funny because when there is a male sound guy and he's lobbing me up, it's the same thing like the barber edging you up. They don't want to look you in the eye, but I'll be like, yeah,
I'm
go
done.
Ahead. Make this eye contact.
Direct eye contact.
Let's go. Don't be afraid. We ain't here.
For those of you who don't know, lobbing up is like putting a mic on you when you're like on set for something. They'll run a mic up your shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Garrick is in the background
already got
laughing.
the back of their hand up on your chest.
Yeah,
I'm looking right. Looking right in the eye. You better believe it.
He said he looking the barber in the eye too when he getting edged up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, what's good?
That's very fair. Okay, erotic or not, ASMR.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Most definitely. Erotic.
Most definitely. ASMR is so erotic. Mm-hmm. I feel it's so funny when people are like, "Oh, I listen before I go to sleep." I'm like, really? Because I'll be up. You know,
it's time to go. It's time to get it going. If okay. I'm not an ASMR person, so I never really understand it. But hey, it's neither here nor there. I don't know. Erotic or not, driving a stick shift.
No. I think I'm too into my, me and Garrick has that LA indoctrination of that street racing. So when we hitting the stick, we thinking about Fast and Furious. We ain't thinking about, even like my one of my early girlfriends had a stick shift, and she was nice with. She's the one who taught me how to drive stick, and never even in that situation, none of it was romantic. It was just straight up like, we drive.
No eroticism in there. It was we getting to where we're going, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. I can't drive stick. I hate it. I never found anything. I do find it kind of erotic when a man is doing it.
Yeah.
But I can't. Otherwise, it's exhausting. It's stressful. I don't really want any parts of it. I have another game for us.
Okay.
I have a list of celebrity sexual moments, and I'm gonna say them out loud to you, and I want you to rate them on a scale from 1 to 10. 1 being just so fucking tame, and 10 being like kink supreme. Okay, you ready? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Lakeith Stanfield moaning in clubhouse moan rooms. Do you remember that?
I do. That is such a time capsule of how alone and horny we were during the pandemic.
For real.
We were in Clubhouse moaning, taking
Moaning.
turns moaning, taking
Nightly.
turns,
Taking
and
turns
people's
moaning.
down horrendous. Yeah, that's a 10. Like you in there performative moaning, like you, because like either it's performative or you a freaky frog in there doing what needs to be done to hit the octaves to win the moan battle.
Freaking frog really
And
takes
I
me
say
out.
this as someone who is like probably one of the freakiest people
Frogs of
that
them
most of my
all.
friends know. And even when I went into the moan room, I was like, this is a little too much. I got to get out of here. This is a little too much.
I can't.
We all
Okay.
in here.
I'm shocked that you said 10 for that one. Okay, so now
Yes.
I'm very interested to see what you say for the rest of these. Doja Cat showing feet in racist chat rooms.
Man, I'm gonna give that a 3 because that's musty behavior. That was musty behavior. And I don't, and you know, I want her redemption. It is funny because she was complaining about people talking about her hair, and she was like, "I got 4C hair," and I was like, "You know who you wouldn't have had to explain 4C hair to? You know the fan base you could have cultivated to make sure that you would have never had to explain hair types to, but you didn't.
But
You didn't want that.
But you didn't. But you didn't.
But she got a couple of black women fighting for their lives, doing everything they can, taking the abuse to be her fan.
No, it's fair, and perhaps I'm one of them. I don't know. Moving forward. Richard Lawson's Twitter likes being only porn. Do you remember this? This was like maybe 6 months ago. Richard Lawson is Tina Lawson's ex-husband, Beyonce's mom's ex-husband. And they are now divorced. They got divorced sometime last year in 2023. And people went to his Twitter and saw all of his likes were just porn.
Look, I'm gonna tell you this. I've been there.
I'm
there probably nightly because you know there'd be a time where I'm just like scroll because the For You page make it mad easy now because you know you go to the For You page and it's like all like you know thick goth ladies, the witchy black women who do spells but they're thicked up.
Mine's
you know
not like
all
that. My
you know flexible
red
redheads. Well, you know. I don't know what to tell you. That's what mine look like.
Okay.
And so you get through liking a few of them and you like, oh no. If someone looks at my Twitter likes right now, it's going to be in shambles.
Yeah, absolutely. Remember when Twitter would like put your likes on the timeline? It would be like, if you
man,
likes.
Even it has altered my brain chemistry in the sense that I don't even reply to all the stuff I normally would because I was like, do I want this popping up for everybody? Because I don't know if it's going. I think it has changed, but I'm like, I don't know.
I don't know either. I'm not positive. I also am kind of iffy on what I interact with on Twitter now because I'm like, I don't know if this is going to pop up for everybody. I don't want to chance it. Okay.
Yeah.
Gerard Carmichael sucking white toes on camera. Scale of 1 to 10.
I'm gonna say that's gonna be a 6.
Okay.
Because the 10 is trying to ask Tyler the Creator out again on camera, thinking that might get you a new answer. Like that is down horrendous. Also, Tyler the Creator saying that he called him a stupid bitch,
laughed
and then standing on business.
Stupid bitch. Repeated it again for
stood on business on that one and said, "Yeah, yeah, I did say that." Hilarious. 10 out of 10 TV.
Proceeded to fart in the other room, order tacos, eat them, didn't give the man an answer. It's giving humiliation king. My producer said that. Palmyra said that before we started recording. It said humiliation king, and absolutely. Yes.
Well, it's, you know, it is so funny because I feel like it used to be that running joke. I feel like no one said this in a minute, but it's always like, oh man, I should have, I should date dudes. I should date dudes. And it's like, nah, bro, it seems like it's going to be just as hard. It's going to be just as hard. You going to get lit up even worse, potentially.
Definitely. No, I personally feel that dating men is the problem. So no matter the gender of the person dating men, I think you're gonna experience some fuckery at one stop or another. It's gonna be some fuckery with you dating men overall.
Yeah.
The solution 100%. Is to date women. That's the solution. Is to date women and other gender non-binary folks that are not men.
Oh yeah.
And then lastly, our last circumstance, our last scenario, we have Oliver drinking Felix's cum-infested bathwater in the movie Saltburn.
That's a
That was
25.
a
That is
873.
yeah, that was he was down horrendous. It was
Horrendous.
I was like, dang. Yeah.
I have never cringed at a part of a movie that hard in my life. When I realized he was getting close to the water with the intention
Oh
of
yeah.
consuming it, I actually
Well,
wanted to drop dead, I
well,
think.
I think what's worse is how it like was the like the last of it. You know what I mean? Like the fact that it was it was almost gone, and so he was getting like the le- like the
He
leftovers. You know?
was, yes. He was getting the bodily dirt as well as the leftover
Yeah.
remnants of
See, that's
cum.
the thing. I
Yeah.
always think about that film I used to see when I would be doing the showers. I mean, doing baths as a kid, and you would just look at it. And I remember as a kid being like, "Oh, that's proof that I'm clean." And
Oh
then now, as an
God.
adult, I'm like, I was in that though.
It's just sitting in it, stewing in it, you know? Wow.
Yeah.
So I'm not the only one that like only took baths as a kid. I'd be wondering, like,
Oh no.
did
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
take
No.
showers as a child? Or was that just I don't know.
Yeah. No. My mom was like, from Louisiana, and was like, "You gonna take that bath?"
Right. You're gonna get in the bath, go run your bath water. My parents as well. Same thing. Okay, and then finally, for our last little game, I have a list of celebrities and I also have a list of kinks if you need them for reference, Ify, but I feel like you
Okay.
might not need them for reference. You probably know more kinks than I have listed here. I'm going to name a celebrity and you tell me what kink you could imagine them having. Like if you found out
Okay.
like so and so has this kink, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, okay." So
Oh
you
yeah.
name the kink. I name the celebrity, you name the kink.
Okay.
Miley Cyrus.
Oh man. I feel like it is definitely um this is down. I will just say, there are I'm trying to phrase this in a way that isn't going to come back to bite me when I'm hosting SNL while
There we
she's
go.
performing.
There we go. Come
Uh,
on, period.
but definitely there are people, certain white women who will do post content of them going to sex parties, and it is only black men at that sex party. And I feel like
Mm.
that would be her jam.
Okay. I see
Just the
that.
way that she had fun playing in blackness, and then like dipped out real
Dipped
quick.
on out. Yep.
Yeah, and I think the
Mhm.
same thing. You play in blackness and then dip back out to your day job, and pretend like you weren't at that party.
I'm learning so much right now. This is wild. Okay. Jeremy Allen White.
Oh man, I feel like definitely like a unicorn, a hetero flexible third,
Mhm.
who pretty boy who's looking to be a third for any and all couples.
I definitely could see that. Michael B.
Mhm.
Jordan.
Oh man, I think the flip of that, a bull,
Oh,
or someone that,
wow.
yeah. But I
Okay.
feel like, actually, I look at him as like probably a pleasure dom too. He seems like someone who's caring, who like wants to like make sure that his partner is getting pleasure out of it, and will hold them down.
Okay. 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 That sounds nice. That actually sounds nice.
Yeah.
Seth Rogen.
Oh man, that he feels like he has fun with degradation kink.
Oh, I definitely see that. Wow. Absolutely agree there. Jennifer Lopez.
Yeah. Oh man. I Pillow Princess fantasy,
Mm.
the fantasy, like the fantasy where like it's a group of men who serve her. Definitely.
A dream. Sounds great. Absolutely. Meek Mill.
Oh man. I feel like definitely sub tenant switch. I feel like he can be a dom or a sub. and he's
Okay.
willing to play both parts.
He's willing to switch it up. I feel
Yeah.
like if any of y'all are listening to this podcast, Mr. Meek Mill or a Seth Rogen, because it's super likely that you're listening, maybe you should try
Yeah.
out what Ify saying. Maybe you should give it
I
a
feel
go. If
like
you have not, maybe you should give it a go.
I feel like no one would be mad with my pick so far except for Miley Cyrus, and for that I do apologize.
Yeah, I
I do
agree. I mean, she
apologize
might
to you,
not be
Miley.
mad, TBH. She really might not be mad. That might be what she's into. I don't know.
Yeah. Who knows?
Okay, I'm going to tell y'all. Well, I just want to get your thoughts here, Ify.
Okay.
My friends, back to my horror stories instead of my war stories, my horror stories. My friends, I've mentioned this on the podcast before, swear that it is so strange that the first time I had sex, the first position that we used was doggy style. They're like, that's they're like, that's nuts. I'm like, is it? It never occurred to me that was
I feel like
unusual.
no, I don't think that's unusual because I feel like it was doggy style probably had the most press in our generation. Like we
It
were hearing about doggy
did.
style all the time.
We did.
So like having your virginity lost and your first position be doggy, I feel like that makes sense. And also it seems like the most easy. I feel like it's almost in a way less awkward because you're not facing each other. Because I feel like the awkwardness in losing your virginity is being face to face with someone. I mean, like ideally it is romantic, but I mean, I feel like if it's both people's first time, you're kind of like, hey.
If you're 16, 17, it might not be that romantic. Yeah, it might just be kind of awkward. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what my first position was. Dude, I definitely think it was missionary, which is boring. I did eventually make it to doggy style.
Yeah,
but
of course.
Definitely
probably shortly
started.
after. Probably on the second
Yeah.
time. Yeah. Or within that first time. You never really know.
Yeah. That is funny that is like wild. Because to me, it's like, yeah, I think physically it seems like it makes sense.
Yeah. And they're like, it must have hurt. I'm like, I actually don't remember it hurting, but okay.
I mean, I think the thing that hurts about it, which is like the hymen breaking, is going to hurt in any position.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do feel like it depends because I know that that all bodies are different. You know, this is a newsflash for some men who may not know this, but all bodies are different. And if you have a curve, all the positions aren't going to work all the time.
That's a fact.
You know, currently reverse cowgirl is out of the rotation.
Wow.
Because, yeah. Em just looked up at me.
She says she wants it back in rotation.
Yeah, no. I think no. Em does not want it back in rotation. She's shaking her head violently. It just does not work phically, and I think that is
speak that word
more on me. Yeah, I think that is more on me, and in the way that I am built than anything. But it is interesting because I have had, and I never thought about it being, once again, sex ed bad. Never thought about being like, oh, it's because everyone's bodies are built differently.
Yeah.
And so like sometimes, you know, you like there's been partners that I just never did doggy with because it just didn't work. And sometimes it is just because they're either too small or I'm too big, like height wise. But it is very interesting, all these like elements that come into play. But if you're only information as to how sex work is porn and you're just trying to do those moves and you're like, well, I don't know why it's not working.
Word. Yeah. That's unfortunate.
So also, I say all that to say if your friends who are like, didn't it hurt? Maybe they should, you know, try with someone else and it might not hurt.
Yeah, because I was fine personally. And we will wrap up here if you have one final question for you. How did you get the name Thot Dad? What?
Oh, yeah. That was a friend, Madison Shepard, a fellow comedian. I was doing a joke on stage where I was talking about I didn't know what type of dad I would be. Like I always, because I feel like there's different like dad personas that people had. And when I had Naomi, I didn't know what type of dad I would be. And I was like, and I finally decided I want to be a hot dad. Like that's what to be. And when I got off stage, Madison was like, you're not a hot dad, you're a thought dad. And I was like, oh man.
Oh, wow.
That is great.
That is great.
Yeah.
That's very fun. Shout
Yeah.
out Madison. That's You
Yeah.
might have to put
Shout
her
out to
on
you.
payroll. Yeah, because that's nice.
Yeah. Well, look, we'll see if the show sells. You'll definitely I'll make sure you're on staff. I ain't gonna give you any money.
Make sure I'm on staff and
let me
make
not
sure
be on
I get
record
some
where
money.
I'm sitting in court with this podcast being
Right.
played for me, like Young Thug listening to his rap song.
Literally, right. Me mouthing the words to you speaking on this podcast. Yes, very much. Is there anything else you want to talk about sex and kink before we hit him with the outro?
I think all I will say is you should be having fun when you have sex. Sex shouldn't feel like a task. It shouldn't feel like an obligation. It should feel like a chance for you and your partner to have fun in the bedroom. So speak up about what you want and let's talk about it often. Even if something as little as oh man, that was great. That was something that I noticed when I started doing it really does it's like a little moment of connection, a little flashback to that moment where you're like, oh yeah, we had fun.
Okay. That's really good advice. I hope y'all are listening. And that's it for our show today. Please let the folks know where they can find you and any projects you want to plug, Ify.
Yeah, Ify Nwadiwe on Twitter and Instagram. Obviously, right here on the Max Fun Network, you can listen to Maximum Film. You can also listen to Our Relationship podcast if you want to hear me and M read through the mess that is all the relationship advice questions that are on Reddit and give our thoughts, our honest thoughts and opinions on it and discuss it and see whether or not we think the relationship is fixable.
That sounds like a very fun podcast. I'm definitely going to check that out. For those of you who want to check us out on YouTube, you can go to youtube.com/@blackpeopleloveparamore. The link will be in the show notes. If you have thoughts you'd like to share with me, you can email me at blackpeopleloveparamore@gmail.com or at me across all social media platforms at BPLP Pod. You can support this show and get bonus content at MaximumFun.org/join. Our editor is Jenriel Lagat and our producer is Palmira Muniz. I'm your host, Sequoia Holmes, and this has been a production of Maximum Fun.